and I didn't have time to look for investors or anything at that point. And I just knew about the SBA 7A program through someone who referred me to it. And I said, okay, let's do it. They put a lien on our house. I had to sign over my life insurance policy. You also have to have skin in the game. Just like a mortgage, you have to put down a down payment. So we had to put down about $150,000 that I, took from our savings. So I'm like, I hope this works out, because if it doesn't, I could be homeless.
Welcome everyone to another episode of F5 Collective presents Women in Business, and today we have the wonderful Iva Chen of Jetsetera Ventures. I'm really looking forward to talking about this because there's, I think, an incredible trend within the within airports and so forth where food is being taken more seriously, and Iva has tapped into this. I'm super excited to talk about this. So without further ado, Iva, pleasure to meet you.
Very nice. Thank you for having me here today, Linda.
Absolutely. This is great. I'm so glad we get to talk about it because it is something I've noticed. I travel a fair amount and I've noticed this. So before we even get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you came from, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was born in Los Angeles, but have lived all over the West Coast: Los Angeles, Seattle, Hawaii. Grew up in the Bay Area. Went to school in Santa Barbara. Started my career very early on as a CPA at Deloitte, and spent about 10 years in corporate finance at Nestle, Capital Group, CBS, Paramount, and then decided to retire from corporate America, join my family business, and become an entrepreneur. In the sort of along the way, I've pursued many, many different entrepreneurial routes and projects. I was a matchmaker and dating coach for a little bit. I spent 8 months in China building restaurants, a chain of Italian restaurants. I did like an interview and resume building business. I've also done work in experiential marketing with an agency working doing marketing for billion-dollar brands. So I've had and also got my real estate broker's license and insurance licenses. I just am a passion for learning and working on yourself as well.
Okay, so you said that is so awesome.
It's a lot.
But it's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so funny. I have friends that say to me, Linda, I think you've worked every job that's legal. I'm like, yes, every job that's legal. That's right. Well, okay, you said family business. What was the family business?
Yeah, so the family business is airport concessions.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah, so I took all those what feels like very, very random skills and took that into my family business, which actually makes me really, really good at what I do today.
Yeah.
Which is airport, restaurant, and retail development, ownership, and operations.
So now let's go back just a little bit. So when you went into was the family business the first entrepreneurial thing that you did, or what was the first entrepreneurial?
Well, going all the way back, I was a babysitter as a teenager, right?
Me
I think
too.
I've always really enjoyed making money.
Mhm.
I even sold lanyards door to door to, custom ordered, there's a little lanyard keychains.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a teenager, I went and washed cars around the neighborhood to raise money to buy a gift for my boyfriend and throw a birthday party for him. I mean, I've just always enjoyed making my own money. I think maybe because I like spending money.
Yeah. So you want to make
I
sure
was
you
a
have
Girl
it.
Scout. I sold, Girl Scout cookies. But my first real actual business was probably when I joined the experiential marketing agency and was an independent contractor doing event planning and marketing events throughout the nation. I got my real estate license. That's also, sort of your own business. So a lot of different things along the way.
You bring up something because a lot of, and we've discussed this on the show previously. We've had some folks, because a lot of people forget that when you're a freelancer, when you're an independent contractor, you're an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Because your brand is you.
Yes.
Right? You're selling you.
Yes.
So, with that in mind, what was your experience with that when you really kind of said, okay, you took all of that you learned as a kid, but then you really took that into an actual career?
Yeah, it's so different because I came from corporate. I was a W-2 for so many years. And I will tell you, I work more than I ever did than when I was an employee. But I enjoy what I do. I have complete control over my day and my time, and over my finances. The more you put in, the more you get out. But you have to be really, really smart about it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the family business that then took you, was did the Italian restaurant come first, or was the family business first?
The family business
Okay.
first. When I first joined my family business, I helped them with finance and accounting and some marketing. There's not a lot of marketing to be done in the airport space, but it's
Mhm.
more about the customer experience and the brand experience. And then I got to went to China to build restaurants with my dad because he lives in China, and that was really cool. So I got to learn how to do construction and design on the restaurant space and really build a brand from 0 to 1,
Mhm.
and then 1 grew to eventually 5 stores. Sadly, they all closed since the pandemic,
Mm.
but it was a really amazing experience, especially working overseas in my cultural heritage country, which was Zhongshan, China. My family's Cantonese,
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
really navigating the obstacles of building a business in a foreign country,
Yeah.
which you think would be really hard, but amazingly things work really fast in China because there's an endless supply of labor.
Mm.
Things are really cheap, so you can build very quickly and cheaply in China compared to especially the US, especially in the airport space where things are astronomically expensive,
Right.
labor and materials and all those things.
What is so you've got Jetsetera Ventures, and
Mhm.
but before we even get into that, what is it like working in the aviation space? And because it's obviously heavily regulated.
Yes.
There's probably an incredible amount that you have to go through. It's a very
Yeah,
unique sort of thing. And then you take into consideration that it's hospitality in the aviation
absolutely.
space. What was that like?
Yeah. What many people don't know is the airports are usually owned and operated by the local government. So,
Okay.
San Francisco International Airport, where 2 of my restaurants are in, are owned by the city and county of San Francisco. So, essentially, what we are doing are bidding for government contracts.
Right.
So, there's an entire process. It's very different than operating a restaurant street side where you can just see a vacancy. You go to the property manager, say, "Hey, I want that space." You pay your deposit, and then the rest is up to you whether you make money or not and how soon you open. So we are competing against huge corporations to bid on these spaces. We are controlled by airport rent, which is percentage rent. We have union labor. So the economics of operating in an airport are very different than a street side location.
Yeah.
And then we're heavily regulated by, we have to abide by TSA regulations, Homeland Security. All our staff have to go through background checks through Homeland Security in order to be badged to work at the airport.
Yeah.
We're required to open 16 hours a day, 365 days a year. So when we charge you $6 for a bottle of water,
There's a
that's
reason.
why. That's why. It's not
Yeah.
to get rich.
No. No, I since I like I said, since I travel a fair amount, I figured that out. But you now, Lady Luck Gourmet,
Yes.
is that also, speak a little bit to Lady Luck Gourmet,
Yeah.
and because I'm curious about, are there restaurants from that are in airports,
Yeah.
or what's the
So
situation with
Lady
that?
Luck Gourmet is a company that my father founded with his business
Okay.
partner. It was formerly 4 families. Now it's just 2 families left, my father and the Goldilocks family.
Okay.
Goldilocks is a really famous Filipino bakery chain with about 1,000 locations worldwide.
Wow.
And they had always wanted to get their brand into the airports. So prior to me helping them get into the airport, my father and his business partner had opened 3 other restaurants in the airport under different brands,
Mhm.
proprietary brands. So when the opportunity came about, there was a bid opportunity for an Asian quick service restaurant in SFO Airport. I said, "Hey, let me help you. I think I can get your brand into the airport." So I helped them develop the entire concept, which is very different from their street side locations. We modeled it after Panda Express.
Ah,
Um,
smart.
very interestingly, because now I'm a Panda Express licensee. So I actually didn't know really the operational side of Panda Express. I just kind of instinctually said, okay, this is what they do. Let's
Mhm.
let's model this Goldilocks after that. So I got to build this concept and develop this concept. I got to put together the bid, the proposal. What I do is called bid to build out. So and work with the the general contractors
Mhm.
and the architects to build out the space. And then my job was in business development. I was supposed to go on and keep opening more Goldilocks restaurants in other airports. But we were supposed to grand open on March 23rd, 2020. I don't know if that
Oh,
date rings a bell, but
a
the
little bit.
shelter in place was issued literally a week before on March 16, 2020, and the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
So it was all hands on deck when we finally decided to open, which the airport was saying, hey, passengers are complaining, there's no food in the terminal. Can you open? We made a strategic decision to open in May of 2020. And so it was all hands on deck. So there was no development, nothing was opening up. So I got involved with the operational side of the business, which was a great learning lesson for me.
I bet that must have been
Yeah.
incredible trial by fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Keeping my employees safe during
yeah,
the pandemic. We were the only restaurant open in the entire terminal, and really like helping introduce the world to Filipino cuisine,
Yeah.
which I'm so proud to do.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then what there's a lot in there because what I love so much about what you're doing is you're bringing this these unique cultural experiences into this very diverse space that has incredible amounts of mainstream, but so many different palettes and so many different folks coming through. And I'm curious, how has that been for you? I know that's really important for you. How has it
Yes.
been to putting these restaurants together and making them accessible to folks?
It's an incredible opportunity,
Mhm.
and there was so much pressure on me to get it right.
Yeah.
Really present the brand in the best light, and I think that's where my experiential marketing background comes into play. We really make sure to highlight the brand and present it to people who have never experienced Filipino cuisine. I mean, like what I'm doing, I'm representing not only the brand, but the cuisine as a whole.
Yeah.
And so there's so much pressure to get it right. And we went through many iterations of how we presented the cuisine. And by the way, I'm not Filipino, so I'm Chinese American, so
Mhm.
I wasn't really familiar. So I really had to deep dive and educate myself on what the cuisine is. It's the original Asian fusion,
Yeah.
so it incorporates flavors from China, Malaysia, France, Spain, America, and so everything will taste familiar yet distinctly Filipino.
Mhm.
But the names don't sound familiar. So in our descriptions, there's a dish called arroz caldo, for
Mhm.
example, which is essentially the Chinese version is juk or porridge, a chicken porridge. And so when we first made the descriptor, we said it's chicken porridge. And people were like, what is chicken porridge? Right? Or what is arroz caldo? What is chicken porridge? And
Mhm.
so basically, over the evolution of the naming description, we now call it chicken rice soup. And everyone's like, oh, I know what chicken rice soup
Yeah.
is. And so they're more willing to try it. So we've adapted our recipes to be gluten free. So it's more appealing to more of accessible to a wider audience.
Mhm.
And so people are more willing to try because they're like, oh, I get what that is. It's not as scary and unapproachable as if you're saying using all these foreign terms to
Mhm.
describe them.
Right.
So it's been really fun building that brand and the concept. And now we rebranded to Mama Go's Filipino Cuisine, which is
Nice.
our airport proprietary brand.
Mhm.
But really, it's been wonderful bringing Filipino cuisine to the forefront. It's really delicious. And I just know, and we took a chance opening during the pandemic. It was either we knew people would only have two choices: it's Filipino food or a vending machine.
Right.
So we knew as soon as they tried the food, they would fall in love with it. And sure enough, they have.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Andrew Zimmern, who
Mhm.
is, the famous
Love him.
whatever chef,
Yeah.
he had tapped that the next great cuisine and the next great chefs would be Filipino. And then the
Absolutely.
pandemic hit.
Yep. Yep.
And so that threw everything off course. So
Mhm.
all the amazing restaurants that were primed to open,
Mhm.
but then now you've made it possible for people to experience it. And I've
Right.
noticed I know that in our world,
Mhm.
here in LA and so forth,
Oh
I've
my
noticed
gosh.
more and more.
Absolutely.
I mean, I grew up eating Filipino food, so I just love it no matter what. But it's so great, and it's also that opening door of this unique experience in airports where
Mhm.
food is changing.
Mhm.
So how do you feel about that? Knowing that it's kind of going by the way of the
Yeah.
casinos, right? Where
Yeah.
casinos have become more focused on really good food, and I've
Mhm.
noticed airports are becoming more focused on great
Absolutely.
food.
So really interesting. I know the whole evolution of airport dining because my father was with HMSHost for over 22 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. So in the early 80s, when he first joined that company, HMSHost owned about 95% of all airport concessions throughout the US. And concessions are restaurants and gift shops,
Mm-hmm.
bookstores, magazine shops. And so they had their generic brands and then they went to national brands. My father was actually the architect of the 30-year exclusive licensing deal between Starbucks and HMSHost. So we were living in Seattle at the time,
Way to
and
go, Dad.
he's the one who put Starbucks in the airports. So, and coincidentally, I am now a Starbucks licensee. So those are other projects that I'm pursuing. But so it went super national, like Burger King, Starbucks, McDonald's. That was all the airports had. And then in the early 90s, Mayor Willie Brown of San Francisco decided, hey, we need to have more representation of the local brands and flavors. So a lot of it shifted, the pendulum swung the other way to highly local brands. So in San Francisco, my father brought in Bodine Bakery, famous sourdough bread and other really famous San Francisco brands. And then all the other airports followed suit. They're like, hey, we really like this local sense of place that airports are now giving passengers. So if you go to Austin Airport, there's a lot of barbecue, there's a lot of Tex-Mex, so you can really experience the local flavor and cuisine. So when the opportunity came up in San Francisco, how we won that Goldilocks bid is San Francisco is home to the second largest Filipino population in the US.
Wow.
Second only to Los Angeles.
Wow.
So it absolutely represents a local sense of place to bring Filipino cuisine into San Francisco Airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great to see that airports. So this is interesting to me. Airports are having it have a local flavor. So that if you aren't from here and you're traveling through the airport, you get to experience that flavor, even if what you're doing is you're on a connecting flight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for example, so when I fly through Maryland Airport, I am always so excited when I see that my gate is right by the Maryland crab cake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Beat-A-Bear. I was just in that airport last week. Yeah.
And I make a point of making sure that I've got enough time that I can go.
Or like in New Orleans Airport, I got to pick up my Café du Monde, my beignets.
Yeah.
I was like, sweet, because I didn't get a chance to stop by, while I was there.
Right, right. So all those different things that you get to do. So Jetsetera. What led to Jetsetera? Because I'm assuming that is not
I
just part of
just
the family
rebranded
business.
my company. It was formerly IOC Design and Consulting. IOC are my initials, not the International Olympic Committee. I used to do all sorts of different stuff, and people always ask me, oh, you're a designer. I was like, no. I've done wedding planning, experiential marketing, so it made sense back then. So Jetsetera, I actually wanted to name my company Jetsetter, but it's not trademarkable. So now Jetsetera is a play on jet setter and et cetera.
Got it.
So definitely more aviation focused name because that's really my space and my niche and what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what led to you saying, okay, now as you take this and you're taking it to the next level, what's next for Jetsetera? What are you looking forward to with this?
We are about to take off. I'm in the middle of many bids outstanding at SFO, and I just won 2 contracts at LAX. So those are joint venture contracts. I'm really excited. Those will be spots opening in Terminal 4 in time for the LA 28 Olympics. I'm just really, I will say that getting that Panda Express store in SFO, I'm the first ever Panda Express in SFO. I won that bid, and I was able to open that within a year. That really opened so many doors for me, really talking about my capability and my credential in this space. So now everyone is knocking on my door. I currently work with about 10 different brands and helping them get into the airport space. So if you have a brand or product that is a good representation of a local sense of place in Los Angeles or San Francisco or San Diego, like I'm your girl. And I really take a lot of pride in taking care of your brand and presenting it in the best light because that's really, really important to me.
So Jetsetera, what exactly is the process with Jetsetera? Like what exactly do you do? How does a brand either approach you or what are you looking for when you're thinking about all of this?
So
And
I have like a portfolio of 10 brands that I work with right now. It's a really long process, let me say. So the current bids I'm working on that I've been working on for the past year, so I've been having these conversations, are not set to open until 2029. So what happens is I go around and I meet people. I go to a ton of events and I talk to brands. I want to experience their actual restaurant or food. And if it's something that I can see would be a good fit or they have a strong operations, for example, you need to be doing well street side. Airports have minimum requirements for these concepts. So San Francisco, for example, they had a bid for a coffee shop. You need to be doing $2 million a year in the last 3 to 5 years, even to qualify to bid. So it's not to say, it's really because airport rent is so expensive. Airport labor is so expensive. If you're not doing that kind of money, you will not make money in the airport. You will lose money. And that's the last thing the airport wants, is for a small business to come in thinking, oh, I had a lady come to me the other day with a wine bar brand. And she says, oh, it's this great. It would be great for the airport. I feature all these local wines. I said, cool. What's your average unit volume? What are you doing? And she said, I make $7,000 a month. I'm doing $7,000, not making. And I said, come back to me. When work on your business, come back to me when you're closer to the $2 million mark a year, because that's just not going to work in the airport space. We have a thing called minimum annual guarantee, MAG, where you're committed whether you make money or not. For example, my 724 square foot space at the airport, my MAG is $350,000 a year. So that's almost $30,000 a month in rent, regardless if I make a single penny.
Yeah.
So do the math. And part of the whole proposal process when I do these proposals is submitting a financial pro forma for 5 years. So they make you go through the exercise because they want you to know what you're signing up for. Because if you win this is what you're on the hook for, right? And union labor is incredibly expensive. All in San Francisco is about $45 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And right now in LAX, they have the Olympic living wage. That's $30 an hour before benefits. So you really have to understand your financials and your numbers. Is this going to work for you? Of course it sounds great. Like, you have a captive audience. We're going to do airport locations do 3 to 5 times what a street side location will do. Right.
Yeah.
So you'll have great traffic. But if you don't have the capacity to do that type of volume and you're not there yet, it's very, very risky. And I will not take a chance on brands like that because we invest a lot in these spaces as well. Airport CapEx, the build out for the airport is about $2,500 a square foot.
Wow. Whoa.
Yes. So my little 724 square foot space costs us about $2 million to build out. But the leases are long too.
Right.
So you also have to make sure these brands are going to last, right? Our leases now are 14 to 16 years long. So some brands are like playing on trends and fads, like, even those Labubus. I mean, it's not going to be popular 15 years from now. They're not going to sell for the same price they are now.
Yeah.
So we really look for brands that have staying power, that have mass appeal, that have that local sense of place, and that can generate the volume. Airports, the largest day part in the airport is breakfast. So you have to have a breakfast menu.
Yeah.
We do about 40% of our sales by 10 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because people are catching early flights. There's not that many red eyes at night.
Yeah.
TSA opens at 3:30. We open from 3:30 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. every day, 365 days a year. If you don't open on Christmas, you're fined.
Yeah. Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you think about all the times that people are, they've got delays or whatever.
Yeah.
And
we love delays.
Well, of course.
We don't like cancellations, but we love delays.
Yum, 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 yum.
Yeah. Fog, love it.
So are all the brands that you're dealing with, is this all food?
Yes,
Okay.
I deal with mainly food. As far as the retail spaces that I've won, those are joint venture contracts.
Okay.
So the Prime that brought me on as a joint venture partner, they have their own brands and products that they bring in.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Are there, and this will sound, I'm so curious about this. Are there prime spots in the airport?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I will say that I do not have a prime spot for my little Filipino restaurant. It's actually, so the way SFO Airport is, the new Harvey Milk Terminal 1, you come in past TSA and you have a food hall, you have these wonderful restaurants, and then there's like 2 kind of long piers. We call them piers. And my restaurant is at the end of the pier. So if you don't have a gate, if your gate is not at that end of the pier, there's no reason for you to walk all the way down there. It's about a 10-minute walk down to our restaurant.
Okay.
So, and you pass by all the other restaurants on your way. You pass by the club lounge where, I'm a lounge user, so I don't blame them. It's essentially prepaid membership for food.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So people have a lot of options before they even know that we're down there.
Yeah.
So absolutely, if you're in the beginning of the pier, you have a lot more foot traffic than at the end.
Right.
But we pay the same rent.
Yeah.
Which is, another challenge of the airport.
Yeah. So with Jetsetera, Who would you say is your like is the kind of HMSs of the world and all of that? Would that be Jetsetera's biggest competition?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We are
Okay.
definitely primed to compete with the primes nowadays.
Got it.
We have investors, we have a great team, we have a great operating team, but my focus probably more in California,
Hmm.
and whereas the HMS hosts of the world have international operations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now you're working on a book.
I
Okay.
am.
What? So tell first of all, what's the title of the book?
I'm so excited. The title of the book is "It Takes a Village. Where's Mine?" The Working Mom's Guide on How to Do It All and Look Good While Doing It.
Oh, okay. Where was that one? Okay. Where was that when I was starting out on this?
Right?
So what made you start writing the book? What was there this moment that made you say, okay, I gotta write?
Yeah, I think it's been a while that everyone's been asking me, Iva, how do you do it all? I am a mom of two young children, and actually a momager. Both my kids are in the entertainment business, so I
Mm,
manage their careers right now. I'm on three, soon to be four nonprofit boards. I've been married for 15 years. I
mm.
had a elderly dog that sadly we just put down,
Oh,
and I've been taking care of myself. So people see me and they're like, I travel. I flew over 60 times last year.
wow.
So people always ask me, Iva, how are you doing all this? How are you balancing it? What's your secret? So I would love to share my secrets, all my hacks and tips, and put it into a book and help, and maybe even go on like speaking tours to help women like learn how to do it all. It is doable.
Hmm.
And there are great. I had the fortune of hearing Indra Nooyi speak in my early 20s. I was at a conference. Indra Nooyi is the former CEO of PepsiCo. She's a mother, she's a wife, and it's funny, after her talk, they open it up for Q&A, and no one's asking her technical questions, right? Like, oh, how did you increase the stock price or whatever? They say, Indra, how are you balancing all this? And I will never forget what she said. She said, you have to decide for yourself what it means to be a good mother, a good wife, a good daughter, a good friend, a good worker, et cetera, et cetera. And the rest of it, you either let it go or you outsource it.
Yeah.
And this was before I was married, before I had kids, before I was even like an entrepreneur. But those words stuck with me. And now that I am all those things, I've had, well, prior to having the financial capacity to outsource it, I would have to let it go. And for me, being a good mother doesn't mean cooking every meal. It doesn't mean my house is spotless, but it does mean, showing up for the piano recitals, the Girl Scout meetings, on weekends, or helping with homework. And interestingly, I have a therapist, and
Mm.
everyone should get a therapist, because if you want to get to the next level in your life and be the best version of you, therapy is amazing. And I was telling her this story about ingenuity, and she said, "Why don't you take it to the next level? Why don't you ask your daughter what it means to her for you to be a good mom?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so genius," right? So I asked my daughter, and she says, "Mommy, I just want like 5 minutes with you every night before bedtime, just you and me, snuggle and talk about our day." And I
Mm.
said, that's it? Like, I can do that. Even when I'm traveling, we get on FaceTime every
Mm.
night before she goes to bed, and I make sure of it that I make that call, and she feels like, "Oh, that's all she needs from me,
Yeah.
and I can do that." So I think it's so important for these women to live their authentic self, what it means to them, and not under what other people think you should be, and don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
And you have to take care of yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So things like my nonprofit work, I do that for me. That's what fills my cup. For you, it could be exercising or yoga or shopping, or having a good meal. I also had date nights with my husband, and now I have an au pair. My village is my au pair. I recently hired a house manager. I have an executive assistant, but I work really hard to have the financial capacity to do those things to free up my time, because what is my time worth?
Yeah.
My time is worth a lot more than the $25 an hour that I pay these people in my village to do that work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So have you started writing the book?
I have. Yep.
How do you feel about the writing process? How
I
has it
hate
been?
writing. I'm a not. I'm a business person, so my writing is very short and succinct. So to think about writing like an entire book is very daunting. But I have a writing coach. I have a publisher, and they've been really, really wonderful in helping me through this process, taking it like making it more digestible.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna lie. I said, can I just they don't encourage AI because it really needs to be in my voice. And I said,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'm using this thing called Whisper, where it's voice to text,
Yeah.
and it'll write everything for you. Like I'm talking and writing into it because eventually I want to turn it into an audiobook too, and then you can go in and edit the text. So at least the blinking cursor thing isn't so scary because you just sit there and you're like, I don't know how to start. So I'll just ramble into the phone and it'll write what I'm saying, which is really my voice. So
Yeah. It's so funny. There's so many things that have been around actually for a long time that transcribe for you and do
Absolutely.
that. So,
Yeah.
but I'm always curious because as a writer, I like to find out how other people feel about
Yeah.
writing. It's a different sort of animal.
Yeah.
And so approaching how you come at that, because it makes you stop and have to take the time to think about, right?
Yes.
Your
I
experiences and
know.
everything. So recap those.
Yeah.
You with this, and it's so exciting that you've got the book and that you've decided to do that, because I know that supporting minorities, and of which women are one, and really helping young entrepreneurs, and those. And when I say young, we obviously mean people who are starting that journey,
Early stage.
early
Yeah.
stage. What are some of the other things that you're doing with that? Because I know it's really important to you.
Absolutely. I really believe in giving back. Like I didn't get here by myself, and it was the women and people who paved this path before me. So I think it's so important. Even those little nuggets, like hearing Indra Nooyi speak, that little nugget stuck with me for the last 20 years. And I'm able to apply that to my life right now. I just want to give back in that way. And just on my way here, I was on a call with another mom who had just heard about this au pair program, and she wanted to learn, like, what is this au pair program, which a lot of people don't know about. It's a foreign exchange program through the U.S. Department of State. It's only $2,000 a month, and I have full-time childcare, but they live with me. And she's essentially like part of my family now. And so we've hosted an au pair. We're in our second year of hosting an au pair, and it's been wonderful. So those are those things where I'm like, if I can just share a tip for another woman and make her life easier, like I love to do that. And it's mutually beneficial. Like my house manager now, she's a single mom going through a divorce, and no one will hire her because she has a gap in employment. And she's so happy and thrilled to be working in my house. She's like, I finally get paid to do what I've been doing all along.
Yeah.
And yet I'm helping her get back on her feet, and I'm just like, I just feel so much joy being able to do that because it's mutual. I said, you are helping me so much and making my life better and easier. I get to come home now to a clean home, or actually I work from home, so it's clean all the time. And it's funny because I have mom eyes where everything bothers me. Like nothing bothers my husband. Like the counter can be like a hot mess, and he's like, what? Like, I don't see this mess. Right. So now he didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. So let's pay someone to do it then, because I don't want to clean the counter either. And so that's where we're at. And I'm just on a high on life right now with having, I feel like I've figured it all out. And I just would love to share that with other women to help them know that they can do it all, and look good while doing it. Because some women do it all, but they look like they're falling apart. And so I have tips and tricks on how to look good while doing it too. And it may not be for everyone, but it's what works for me.
Yeah. Well, all of that is subjective.
Yeah.
And even as objective as you are, you're going to have to take away from it what you take away from it.
Exactly.
And this is really exciting. We'll have to come back to you when the book is coming out, because we'll have to talk about that. That'll be really neat. I have to ask this because this is such an interesting thing, and it's such an interesting space that you're in. Why airports? Why did your family start to? And I know that your dad had worked for HMS and all of that, but what was it about that space that called to you?
Yeah, well, I feel very fortunate. I love food. I'm a total hardcore foodie, and I love travel. So I feel very fortunate to work in a space blending the two things that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, it's very challenging. Interestingly, people who end up working in an airport never leave.
Yeah.
I think everything's too easy afterwards, and I love a challenge. I figured this out by myself. Like, my husband told me, "Oh, I just want you to be comfortable," and I figured out a few years after our marriage, I actually don't like being comfortable. I feel like comfort is like stagnant. I like challenging myself. I'm very ambitious, and I always want to do better, be better, do more. And so I don't like comfort. And along those lines, the funny story that makes me very different from your average I like to think of myself sort of like an Elle Woods. In
Mhm.
college, I was a sorority girl, Alpha
Mhm.
Chi Omega, and my boyfriend at the time had just finished boot camp over the summer, and he came back and he would always tell me, "You need to go to boot camp, princess." And so, freshman year of college, they dropped off a flyer at my dorm to sign up for a basic leadership training camp in Fort Knox, Kentucky through ROTC, and I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So I showed up in Fort Knox, Kentucky with my nails painted and everything. And I was like the laughing stock of of the company. And, I was like, "I'm Cadet Chu from UC Santa Barbara." And the drill sergeant said, "Cadet, drop and give me 20." And I looked at the phone, I was like, "It's really dirty over there." But lo and behold, I graduated ranking fourth out of the company, 250
Oh
cadets.
my
Yes.
gosh, good
Uh,
for
so mind
you.
over matter, right? I think
Yeah.
really what it was my mentality going into it. I love a challenge, and I said, interesting, like you can do whatever you put your mind to. And it's really having that coachable attitude of, okay, I'm here to learn. Most of the people there were from military academies and they're from the ROTC
Yeah.
program. I had never done any of that, but I said, I can do it. I can do it. And it really, your mind is stronger than your physical body. Talk to any Olympian or any athlete.
Yeah.
Really, it's your mind has to be so
Yeah, it's
strong.
the mental game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So after that, I went on to do triathlons, half marathons, and I don't like running. I don't like any of that. I don't like exercising. But again, it's that mental, like, wow, I can do anything I put my mind to.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, here are my 10 tips for an entrepreneur for running your own business. Number one, follow your passion. Do what you love, because if you love what you're doing, you're going to put more energy into it and you're going to be more successful at it. I know it sounds super cliche, but do what you love, right? Number two, be disciplined. There will not, everyone, you have to be very, very disciplined in this world because you're your own boss. Like, no one's going to tell you what to do. No one's going to look out for your business more than you are. So you have to be very, very disciplined and committed to your business. Number three, know your numbers. You absolutely have to be obsessed with the data and your numbers of your business. You could be making $1 million a year, but if you're spending 1.2 million, you're going to be losing money. So know your numbers, know what's driving those sales, understand who your customers are, understand your brand and really what your unique selling props. This is probably tip number four. Your unique selling proposition is to the world and what you're bringing. Number five, know your competition. Who are you competing against, right? Are you first to market, or is the market already saturated, right? How are you going to distinguish yourself from everyone else out there? Number six, know yourself. What are you good at? What are you not good at? Whatever you're not good at, learn to find people who are good at that and delegate, right? Because you can't do it all. But number seven, you have to be scrappy in the beginning, right? If you don't have the money to pay people, you're going to have to learn how to utilize, fortunately, AI nowadays. There's a lot of resources that are low to no cost, and learn those things so that one day when you do have the budget to pay someone to do it, your black box is much smaller. The black box is a concept that there's input and there's output. In between the input and output is a black box. What does it take to produce that output? For example, graphics design work. I use Canva for everything. Utilize technology. In the past, you'd have to pay a graphics designer, and a graphics designer is going to give you a quote for something. You're like, that's so expensive, but it feels expensive, or that's so cheap. And you would only know whether it's expensive or cheap if you've tried to do it yourself before. So make your black box as small as possible, and so that you can understand what people are worth. Delegate. There's like 4 boxes of delegation. The first one is things that you're not good at. That's the first thing that you delegate. Number two is things that you don't like to do, but you're like kind of good at. So delegate that out. Number three is, things maybe you don't. But anyway, the fourth box, which is the very, very last box, is things that you do like and that you're good at, but you just don't have the time to do. So there's like a little quadrant of levels of delegation. Eventually, you'll get big enough, hopefully, that you'll have to delegate that fourth box. But it's really important because no one does this on their own. Nobody built a unicorn on their own. And if this is something that you really love and you're passionate about, you just got to keep going, be disciplined, and but also learn balance, find ways to fill your own cup so that you can keep going. No one's gonna asking you to work yourself to the bone, but the first few years are going to take a lot of discipline and dedication, and hopefully, actually, very, very important is find a good partner in life to support you. I can tell you that I did not do this on my own. My husband is a W-2. He's a nurse. He supported me when I was early on in my entrepreneurial journey so I could take a lot of risk. He had the health insurance benefit. He had the salary while I was out there trying different things, doing different things. And now he's able to take a back seat and work part-time and stay home some more time with the kids while I'm out traveling and really scaling my business. So choose wisely, because that is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life, is who you spend your life with.
Well,
Yeah.
Iva, okay, so this is really good. So what I want to do the founder deep dive.
Okay.
You up for that?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
If someone were to hand you $500,000, what would you do with it?
Pay off my stupid SBA 7A loan. That was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through.
Really?
And I would not go that route again. It's the lender of last resort. So if you don't have to go that route, don't do it.
Wow. Okay, so now this is interesting, because then the next one is, now in Jetsetera, do you have partners?
No.
Okay, it's just you?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you did go and ask for the money, what pushed you to that point,
It was
basically?
so hard. It was
Yeah.
so hard. I thought the build out for the Panda space would be so much cheaper. I had budgeted like $250,000 because we were converting a former pickup sticks, and I was like, how much could it possibly be?
Right.
But Andrew Chung, who's still very heavily involved with the business, he had a different vision for the place. He wanted to flip the entire front counter along. So after all this said and done, it was about $750,000. Yeah. So I was like, I got to come up with a lot more money. And I didn't have time to look for investors or anything at that point. And I just knew about the SBA 7A program through someone who referred me to it. And I said, okay, let's do it. They put a lien on our house. I had to sign over my life insurance policy. You also have to have skin in the game. Just like a mortgage, you have to put down a down payment. So we had to put down about $150,000 that I, took from our savings. So I'm like, I hope this works out, because if it doesn't, I could be homeless.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And interesting, the other real challenge about building in an airport is you have no collateral. You don't own the space in the airport. So
Right.
traditional banks will not lend to you because you have no collateral to put down. So that's why I had to they had to put a lien on my house, and I had to sign over my life insurance policy.
Oh my gosh. Now, can you explain to everybody what an SBA 7A is?
Yeah, it's a small business loan, and it can be anywhere from like 50,000, like micro loan, to even $1 million. I think it even goes even higher, but
Wow.
I only asked for what I needed. It's prime plus 2. The lender that I went through, prime was at 7%, so we're at 9% interest, which is very high.
Yeah, that's
Very
high,
high.
man.
I mean, so it's and every lender is different. So shop around. Some lenders use T-bill plus 2, which is a different rate. I wish I had done all this homework prior, and I wish I had known really what I was bringing to the table. And so do your homework first. Definitely shop around different lenders, and some lenders are really difficult to work with. I happened to get one that was really, really difficult to work with. And I'm a CPA saying this.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough process, and it took a lot longer than I had planned for. So it was really scary, because if you don't have the money, it's going to hold up your construction project, and you're not going to get open. If you don't get open on time and rent's already starting, you're already in the red right out the gate.
Yeah.
So it's very scary. It's very there was a lot of stress and anxiety. I will say, people always ask me, "Oh, how hard was it?" I said the hardest part was that SBA 7A loan process, not the construction, not getting permits, not all that stuff. It was the SBA 7A that was so painful.
During this process, was there ever a time that you thought, okay, I'm going to do something else?
No, I didn't have a choice.
Okay.
I was like so far down the line. It was
Yeah.
too late to turn back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, there's no
You
other
got to
way.
do it.
I got to do
You
it.
got to do it.
Yeah, and you can't have 2 outstanding SBA loans. So someone else said, "Oh, I can get you one right away, 50,000." And I said, "Wait. I'm still in the process for the other one. I'm not going to take 50 now and forego 500.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So really educate yourself, really understand what you're obliging yourself to, because you can be like, really, I don't want to say, sorry, screwing yourself
Yeah.
if you took the now money for the bigger later money.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that whole idea of
Mhm.
the instant gratification only to
Yeah.
have to pay for it way
Yeah.
harder later.
So get money before you need it. Get those lines of credit, get your credit cards, your business credit cards, because that will help hold you over until those loans close.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, what are some things, realities, whether financial or whatever,
Mhm.
of the business that you're in that
Mhm.
very few people know?
It's just really challenging. The economics of operating an airport, especially now, with the living wage and how expensive things are in the US, are very, very challenging. It's definitely not as lucrative as it used to be.
Mm.
I mean, we're in a high inflationary economy right now. So the numbers, and the restaurant business is known for very, very small margins as it is.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging. So that's why when people come to me, I say, work on your business. If your business is not doing this volume of sales, you're not ready for the airport. As beautiful as it sounds, and the amazing marketing platform that the airport does provide, like, really work on your business. Make sure you're ready, because it's a huge risk otherwise.
Okay, we're going to do rapid fire. You ready? All right.
Sure.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a boss or a Broadway star.
Oh, really?
Yes, I wanted to be like Lea Salonga and Miss
Oh,
Saigon.
my
I do
gosh.
really still love the performing arts, and that's one piece of my life that I would love to bring back.
Do you sing?
I do. I was a choir girl, though. I'm not like a soloist lead. Yeah, that's why it was a dream.
Okay. What always makes you smile?
Oh my gosh, I was talking to my husband about how I was going to answer this. The real answer I was going to say, I'm not going to say, because one of my children might be a little jealous. But great food. I'll say my children make me smile. Okay,
There you go. Nice.
And great food.
Good save. Okay. What do you know now that you wish you knew then?
It's so important to advocate for yourself and your needs, really, and that communication is so important. Like, really, that self-confidence. I had a serious imposter syndrome for a very, very long time. So I know that even that people always say, oh, or they think you have this job because your dad gave it to you, because I work in the family business. And what my husband said, your dad might have opened the door, but you had to walk through it. You had to do the work to get there.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that back then, because it was haunting me for a really long time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I understand that completely. What is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure, so many, but now I'm on GLP-1s, like Ozempic. It used to be like a boba drink or a bag of Funyuns.
Funyuns, really?
Yeah. I'm also like a news junkie, so I love to decompress at the end of the night by watching like The Daily Show or something, something funny.
Yeah.
But food, always some kind of food thing.
Is there okay, so you're saying boba and Funyuns. Is there any sort of, because you work in food.
Yeah.
But is there any sort of food that you know that no matter what, it's like your go-to? You got to have it.
I have it every week. It's pho. Yeah, and it's just like, it just makes me so, pho, in case you don't know, is Vietnamese noodle soup, beef noodle soup, and it just is like my happy place every week. I go with my husband or with my family, and we just had it last night, and I sit down, and that first bite, I'm just like, oh man, this is my happy place. And now my daughters learn that too, so we look at each other, we're like, so good.
Oh yeah, I used to live in Kansas when I worked for Hallmark for a while, and I used to live in Kansas, and in Kansas City, Missouri is where Hallmark is based.
Oh, wow.
And two of my buddies and I, without fail, we would make a point. There was this perfect Vietnamese restaurant. We would have to go there like 2 or 3 times. I mean, yeah. Oh, I totally get it.
After long trips and stuff,
man.
I come home, I'm like, I just want a bowl of pho.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so with you. And then cat or dog?
I've had both. And we just recently put our dog down, and he was like our firstborn. So probably more a dog person now, because my husband's allergic to cats. So yeah.
What kind of dog was it?
He was a Maltese Lhasa Apso. Yeah, we had him for 14 years. And it was the first time I had to really make the decision to put it. I had never had the choice before my mom put our dog down. I didn't have a say in that. Our other dog was eaten by a coyote, so I didn't have a say in that. So it was really, really sad. But they really, I just heard last night on Instagram, this lady saying that the dogs that come into your life were a child from a past life. And I thought that was so interesting. And
Wow.
that how they just look at you adoringly and you just feel like you have that instant connection. And I
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting and it could possibly be
Yeah.
that.
So, with Jetsetera right now, because you do manage these different brands,
Mhm.
are you seeking out other brands to come into your family? And when you are, what should people know if they're thinking, I want to approach her?
Yeah, always. I'm always seeking brands. And what I forgot to mention is I have this big portfolio of brands. And what we do is we wait for the airports to tell us what they want.
Okay.
So when the airport says, okay, we're releasing this RFP, request for proposal for a burger concept, I'm like, cool, I have a burger concept in my portfolio. Let's talk. Hey, we've been talking. Now's the time. Like we're gonna move on this bid, right?
Mhm.
So always, always. But I want brands that are established. The airport is not a testing ground for a brand or a
Yeah.
concept. I had someone come to, oh, I have this great dessert idea. And I said, okay, do you have like, and they're like, no, it's just an idea. I'm like, this is not a time to test an idea. So if you have a brand that's established, doing a good volume of sales, close to 1.5 to $2 million a year, let's talk.
Yeah.
And breakfast menu, great. Even if you have a product that you want to get in the airport, anything so like for LAX, for example, that's like Los Angeles, so LA, airports love things like that for their gift shops and their retail spaces or something like unique. I always go to Expo West to look for
Mhm.
brands and products to carry in my space. And I love, love, love working with minority and women-owned brands because I just want to give them this platform to really highlight their brand and showcase what this amazing product or concept is.
Yeah, what a great way to also introduce a culture that
Yes.
is this kind of bite-sized experience that
Yes.
you can think about and think, "Oh, I was at LAX and I had this whatever.
Exactly.
I
Like,
had Hopia and I just couldn't believe
mhm.
I had Hopia." Hopia is
Mhm.
like,
As much as I love
yeah.
Panda Express, there's more to Asian food than Panda Express.
Yes, there
And there's room
is.
for all of it, just like American food. There's so
Yeah.
many different types of American food. And I really would love to really showcase and highlight all the amazing different types of cuisine that AANHPI, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander cuisine is able to offer.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Which makes a ton of sense, that whole idea of, you've got to be able to, because part of it is also letting go.
Mhm.
When you're working with the book
Mhm.
and the people that you need to maybe bring into your life that will
Yeah.
carry the load for you that you pay. But for those who aren't able to
Mhm.
kind of dip into their pockets or whatever and
Mhm.
pay folks, what advice would you give to help balance that?
Yeah. In the beginning, when you can't afford or you don't have the budget for those things, like in Juno, you said, you're just gonna have to let it go. So yeah, that mess in the corner, or like you're gonna have to be really disciplined and for my kids, for example. I can't just ignore my kids. So
Right.
yeah, I was doing the pickup and drop off. I was the Uber driver. I had a laptop desk in my minivan that I would set up my laptop while my daughter was at jujitsu so I could get work done. You have to be super organized, have a Google Calendar, have tasks, have reminders, like all these lists. If you're someone who doesn't usually wake up early and now you have to deal with all this, you have to set alarms. And if you don't wake up to the alarm, you have to set alarms for your alarms. Like, just you have to uh, know yourself, what
Hmm.
your capabilities are, what you're good at, what you're not, and then build safeguards in place so you don't have those points of failure. You're going to have to do it yourself for a while. And that's where that discipline and organization really, really comes in until you can afford to outsource it.
Yeah. What I also love about what you said was you have to let it go.
Yeah.
That whole thing that, we as moms,
Oh, 1000%.
we feel like we do have to do everything, and if we're not able to pick up all the toys and put them all away and do all of this and
Yeah.
do all of that, that we are failing miserably.
Yeah.
And do we even deserve to start our own business, or do we, we do
No.
question ourselves? But
Yeah.
how that's a really helpful thing, and also that organizational thing.
Mhm.
Which, now, what's interesting and that could be really cool as well is reaching out to those friends that you know are really good with organizing,
Mhm.
like is that something that you also think is great? Like, making
Yeah.
sure that you have that great, not only partner, but
Mhm.
that great support system.
Yeah. So, the book is called It Takes a Village. And
Mhm.
another thing is you have to be a village
Yeah.
too. And we're in this world right now where we just do Instacart or Grubhub. We don't rely on our village. And so we don't provide a village to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're all like in our own little silos. It may be something that came out of the pandemic. So we're just in a really weird space in our life. And women are expected to work like they don't have kids
Yeah.
and have kids like they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So little last minute things that children are notorious for. Oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. Mommy, I have to bring fresh baked cookies to school tomorrow. I'm like, what? Like we're going to go to the store and we're going to buy a pack of cookies, or we're going to go in the pantry. Like I'm not going to bake fresh baked cookies, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And under social media, all this, people only post their perfection on social media. They're not posting their failures. I mean, for the most part, right? So you don't put that pressure on yourself to live by other people's ideals of how we should be. As long as you're okay with where you're at, you got to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that mom that makes organic, fresh baked, gluten-free, sugar-free, calorie-free cookies. That's just not who I am. And I'm okay with it. But my kid will get the cookies or whatever that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
or I might Instacart them. And they got here.
Yeah.
Because you told me last minute.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been there, done that for sure.
Yeah, we're just in a different generation now than even our parents grew up in. I think I didn't grow up with a great mother. She was actually pretty awful, and she didn't feel any guilt over it, because she also didn't have social media in front of her telling her why she should feel guilty about not being this perfect mom.
Yeah,
and so there's a lot more pressure on us nowadays.
Yes, there's and then new pressures are showing up.
Oh, yeah.
Like where it used to be, you need to be able to work and do everything. Now there's this whole thing of, why are you working? Why aren't you trying?
Oh, exactly.
That's a whole other conversation.
And then also we're in a sandwich generation where I'm parenting my young kids. I'm parenting my aging parents.
Yeah.
And my career is at its peak. So there's a lot of pressure from every direction. So if you can give yourself grace to take some of that pressure off yourself and don't feel like you have to be this whatever other people think you should be, you will have a lot more peace in your life.
Iva, thank you so much. This really has been a joy and a pleasure. And I really definitely want to follow up with you because I want to find out what's going on with the book. And also you have the second book that you're thinking of writing and all of that. This is just the start of more conversations.
Thank you so much for having me, Linda. That was really wonderful to have this conversation. And I really hope it helps women out there and entrepreneurs along their way.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will. And all of you, thank you for joining us. As always, please check out Iva and check out her book, Keep on Top of That. We'll make sure that we mention it from time to time. Look in the link below. Check out the things about Jetsetera and more about Iva. And we will see you next time on F5 Collective Presents Women with Business. Bye.